Welcome to the Biotech Executive Brief, your daily rundown of the developments shaping artificial intelligence, pharma and life sciences, and the broader business landscape. Each episode focuses on the specific news executives should have on their radar, from AI infrastructure and emerging technologies to clinical development, biotech financing, major business shifts, and the global economy. If you find these updates useful, subscribe to the Biotech Executive Brief to get daily updates on the industry and stay current on the developments that matter most. Today's brief covers Friday, August 21st through Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. Let's start with artificial intelligence, where the weekend's news centered on infrastructure, costs, and the rapidly changing economics of AI deployment. Corporate borrowing tied to AI infrastructure is surging, but investors are becoming more selective as the size and frequency of those financings increase. That adds capital availability to the list of constraints around AI expansion, alongside chips, power, and data center capacity. Nvidia is moving deeper into that infrastructure ecosystem. The company made a minority investment in Cloverleaf Infrastructure, which develops sites and power capacity for AI data centers. That's notable because Nvidia is extending its strategic reach beyond accelerators and into the physical infrastructure required to deploy them. At the same time, some of Nvidia's largest customers were reportedly warned that server prices could rise by more than 15% because of higher memory costs. Systems based on Grace Blackwell and next-generation Vera Rubin technology are expected to be affected. So on the infrastructure side, the message is pretty clear. Building AI capacity is becoming more expensive. OpenAI, meanwhile, is pushing costs down at the model layer. The company reduced developer pricing for GPT-5.6 Sol by more than 20%, intensifying competition around frontier model economics. Lower inference costs could make high-end models more practical for enterprise workloads that consume large amounts of tokens. Another important AI development came from Nvidia research, showing that the software architecture surrounding an agent, the agent harness, can materially improve performance even without changing the underlying foundation model. That includes orchestration, tool use, and runtime controls. For enterprise AI, that means the competitive advantage may increasingly come from how the model is deployed, not just which model is selected. We also saw agentic AI move further into scientific research. Inherent, a startup founded by former DeepMind researchers, said its Faraday AI agent outperformed systems from Anthropic and OpenAI at replicating findings from published scientific papers. The company is positioning Faraday as an AI research teammate, capable of handling increasingly complex scientific workflows. There were also two more forward-looking infrastructure stories. StarCloud raised $250 million to develop satellites capable of performing AI inference in orbit. And Ace Robotics chairman Zhang Jianwei said humanoid robotics could experience its own ChatGPT moment by the end of 2027, as advances in AI reasoning and world models improve machine intelligence. Safety and regulation are advancing alongside those capabilities. OpenAI called for stronger provisions in California's SB 53 AI safety legislation, including more monitoring of frontier systems during training and evaluation, and stronger cybersecurity requirements. And legal uncertainty remains around the use of copyrighted books in AI training, keeping data provenance and licensing as important risks for foundation model developers. So the AI picture this weekend is a mix of higher infrastructure costs, lower model costs, more capable agents, and growing pressure around governance and legal risk. Now let's move into pharma and life sciences. The obesity market remains a major focus, and Novo Nordisk had a strong week with oral Wegovy. The treatment recorded more than 176,000 prescriptions in the latest tracked week, its strongest rate since launching in January. Oral Wegovy now accounts for about 35% of total Wegovy prescriptions. At the same time, Eli Lilly's Foundayo prescriptions declined from the prior week after 5 consecutive weeks of growth. That shows oral therapies becoming an increasingly important battleground within the GLP-1 market. There was less positive news from Boehringer Ingelheim. The company voluntarily suspended a phase 1 study of BI3031185 while it investigates a safety event. Boehringer has not disclosed details about either the event or the drug's mechanism. The immediate impact is a pause in enrollment while the company assesses the finding. Biotech financing also produced an interesting transaction. Ambrose Therapeutics agreed to merge with Werewolf Therapeutics in an all-stock reverse merger, accompanied by a planned $150 million private placement. The financing is intended to support Ambrose's Phase 3 Neridronate program through a potential FDA filing. The combined company expects its cash runway to extend into the first half of 2029. Lundbeck also remains active. CEO Charles Van Zyl outlined the company's strategy to deepen its neuroscience focus while continuing to pursue external innovation. Lundbeck reported 16% first-half sales growth, supported by brands including Rexulti and Vyepti. There were several important public health developments as well. Bavarian Nordic CEO Paul Chaplin said climate change is expanding the geographic reach of tick-borne encephalitis and chikungunya, potentially increasing vaccine demand in new regions. In the United States, the Department of Health and Human Services opened a public consultation on federal vaccine recommendations, which could influence how future immunization guidance is developed. U.S. health agencies are also investigating 55 E. coli and Salmonella infections linked to alfalfa sprouts. And in the Democratic Republic of Congo, authorities received 16,250 doses of Merck's Ervebo Ebola vaccine as they respond to a rapidly expanding outbreak. The current outbreak involves the Bundibugyo strain, which does not have a specifically approved vaccine, although health authorities believe Ervebo may provide some protection. So across life sciences this weekend, the major themes are oral obesity drugs, clinical safety, alternative biotech financing, neuroscience growth, and infectious disease response. Now let's finish with business. Ross Stores provided one of the stronger consumer updates. The discount retailer raised its full-year earnings forecast to between $8.61 and $8.77 per share, and expects third-quarter comparable sales to grow between 6% and 7%. That points to continued demand for value-oriented retail. Apple also disclosed a striking tax figure. The company paid Ireland $17.1 billion in taxes during its latest fiscal year, representing about 40% of its worldwide income tax payments. That included 13 billion euros in back taxes ordered by the European Union's highest court. China, meanwhile, signaled that it is prepared to introduce additional fiscal support as needed to bolster growth. Policymakers are putting more emphasis on household consumption and small business financing while accelerating infrastructure projects that have already received funding. Investors are also looking ahead to two major market catalysts: Nvidia earnings and the Federal Reserve's Jackson Hole Symposium. Nvidia's results will provide another read on the strength of the AI investment cycle, while Jackson Hole could reshape expectations around interest rates and financing conditions. There is positive labor news for General Motors in Canada. GM and Unifor reached tentative agreements covering roughly 4,600 workers across Ontario, reducing the risk of a major labor disruption. Energy markets remain more uncertain. Iran granted special permission for several Iraqi oil tankers to transit the Strait of Hormuz, while Iraq continues exploring alternative export routes. In Europe, Romania approved emergency measures to restore cooling capacity at the Cernavodă nuclear plant after historically low Danube water levels disrupted operations. And the Vatican announced plans for a roughly €100 million renewable energy facility near Rome that is expected to generate enough electricity to cover Vatican operations. That wraps up the Biotech Executive Brief covering Friday, August 21st through Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. Across AI, infrastructure financing, server costs, lower frontier model pricing, and stronger agent orchestration all moved into focus. Across pharma and life sciences, oral Wegovy gained momentum, Boehringer paused an early-stage study over safety, Ambrose pursued a reverse merger to fund Phase 3 development, and infectious disease response remained active. And across business, Ross Stores raised its outlook, China signaled more fiscal support, GM moved closer to labor stability in Canada, and energy infrastructure remained under pressure. If your organization is navigating AI, digital transformation, technology strategy, or emerging technologies within life sciences, Sternbridge Technology Consulting helps biotech executives translate industry developments into practical strategy and execution. Subscribe to the Biotech Executive Brief to stay current on the developments shaping artificial intelligence, pharma and life sciences, and the broader business landscape. Thanks for listening to the Biotech Executive Brief from Sternbridge Technology Consulting.